What's going on, team? It's Caddy with Money Investing. I hope that you all are having an amazing day. So in this video, we're going to do a complete company and stock analysis of Nikola, ticker symbol NKLA, and I will give you guys a complete overview of what the company looks like, their different technologies that they have, their product lines. We'll go over some quick facts. Then we'll dive into their financials, such as their revenue and the cash the company has. And then finish it off with some technical analysis to give you guys my opinion on where I see the pattern and the stock price going in the near future. And I will also show you how the stock has been performing over the last few days since it IPO'd earlier this month. So now going into the overview for the company. So they're essentially a blank check company or a special purpose acquisition company, essentially going public in order to raise money. So they're a company that are still in the development stage and doesn't have an established business plan. And the IPO is being used to gather funds and to raise money in order to get into production and move forward with their operations. So Nikola Motors Corporation is an American hybrid truck design and manufacturer company based in Phoenix, Arizona, where it also has its research and development operations. It was founded in 2014, so it's still relatively new. In Salt Lake City, Utah, the company is named after inventor Nikola Tesla. So you can see how there's such a controversial debate and such a big competition between these two companies, Nikola and Tesla. And there's so much hype around these two electric vehicle companies and this industry in general and where it's going to go in the future. So the founder and CEO of this company is Trevor Milton. Ticker symbol is going to be NKLA, and they're traded on the Nasdaq exchange. And they had an IPO with Vector IQ earlier in June of 2020. The market cap currently sits at $23 billion, and the most recent stock price as of Friday's close is going to be $64 per share. So I wanted to share some quick facts about Nikola Motors. They have 7 vehicle product lines with about 262 employees. But if you go over to Robinhood or TradingView, I don't know why they show 4 employees, because clearly on their website, you can see that they have more than just 4 employees. So I'm not sure where that number came from, but based on TradingView's data, they have a 6 cents earnings per share on a 12-month trailing basis. Now, of course, their revenue, their net income, their projections, their balance sheets, financials, all that stuff is still private because they haven't reported anything with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So we don't have access to those right now, but we'll still look into the pre-money valuation and the post-money valuation based on the different series of funding rounds that the company went through before going public. So they're trading at a 998 PE ratio, which is astronomical based on a 12-month trailing price because of the fact that the stock price essentially seen a surge of over 100% in a very short period of time, which brings their PE ratio to a multiple of 998 relative to some of their competitors like Ford, GE, Tesla. They're trading at a very, very high multiple. It just goes to show that what the free public markets think about this stock and how much they're willing to pay based on their $1 or future earnings. Now, the average 10-day volume, I wanted to bring this up, is a little bit over 24 million. So you can see that there are a lot of investors and traders actually looking into this stock. So it just goes to show that 24.6 million shares are being traded on average on a 10-day basis. And you can see that they have a little bit over $86 million in cash on hand, and we will talk a little bit more in detail in just a minute. So looking at the technology for a second, I wanted to do a research on how they are different from Tesla. And the single biggest reason behind that is the technology that they power their car with. So lithium-ion batteries is the most conventional form of electricity that Tesla uses in their vehicles, whereas Nikola Motors is using hydrogen fuel cells. So you can see that a fuel cell generates energy in the form of electricity by harnessing chemical reactions from 2 things, hydrogen and oxygen, while leaving water, H2O, as the only byproduct. It's supposed to be the perfect clean energy and more efficient than lithium-ion batteries because hydrogen is lightweight, not to mention that it is the most abundant resource in the universe. So this is exactly what hydrogen fuel cells are in a nutshell. And the reason why they're saying it's the perfect clean energy source is because lithium-ion batteries, after they're done with their life cycle, and still leave out and emit those chemicals from those batteries. As opposed to fuel cells, the only waste product is water evaporation. Now, this right here is a tweet from Kyle Field that I was able to find on Twitter, and he essentially put this chart together, or he tweeted this chart, to which Elon Musk responded exactly, fuel cells equal full cells. So I'm not sure how accurate this chart is, but it essentially goes over the difference between lithium-ion batteries and the hydrogen fuel cells. And you guys can see that fuel production efficiency is much, much higher for direct charging and battery electric vehicles versus fuel cell vehicles. And how the overall efficiency is also much higher at 73% for direct charging by battery electric vehicles versus fuel cells, which is at 22%. So again, I'm not a chemist or a physicist, so I'm not exactly sure how efficient these technologies are and whether they are the perfect solution to renewable energy and to electric vehicle space. But if you're someone who is experienced in this field, please leave a comment down below and let myself and all the viewers become aware of how these technologies are different from each other and theoretically on paper which one is better than the other. This is also a debate which has been going on in the alternative energy space for years, and this was posted about 4 days ago, to which Elon Musk also responded on June 10th, so it's relatively new. Another thing I do wanted to mention is the capital expenditure and the production. You guys can see right here that Nikola is planning to build a 1 million square foot facility in South Phoenix and start making trucks in 2021. It's expecting to reach full production of about 30,000 fuel cell electric vehicles in 2027 and 15,000 battery electric vehicles the following year. So you can see how the company is positioned in a way that it's a hybrid of both battery electric vehicles as well as hydrogen fuel cells. So it is a direct competitor to Tesla, and only time will tell whether they're able to successfully roll out their products and reach production levels that they are promising. One of the things that stood out to me is that 1 million square foot facility sounds very similar to what Tesla has been building for years, which is their gigafactories, and they have essentially used up a lot of cash, billions of dollars worth of cash, in order to make that dream come true and have their gigafactories up and running to a point where they can be more and more efficient over time in the future. If that's the case, Nikola will have to put out a lot of money in order to build these big facilities, which they are going to use for the production of their cars. Unless, in my opinion, I was thinking and brainstorming some ideas, unless of course they can somehow create some type of deal with Tesla where they are using the technology and the infrastructure that Tesla's already worked on for so many years, and they can capitalize on it, and Nikola can still make that happen. Again, there's a lot of ideas and a lot of deals and a lot of brainstorming that needs to be done when it comes to these two electric vehicle companies. Now, moving on to the revenue versus cash, as I mentioned earlier, they haven't reported anything with the SEC because they just went public earlier this month. So based on the research I did online, it essentially says that they're forecasting zero revenue for 2020, which is no surprise because they're still not in production, and the first $1 billion a year won't be until 2023. And a quick comparison with Ford Motor, it's expected to report about $115 billion of revenue this year, and yet Nikola, whose stock has more than doubled on Monday, traded up to another 24%, as high as $90 a share, and giving the company a richer market cap than almost the 117-year-old maker Ford. So it just goes to show that fundamentals and the actual revenue, the net income, the free cash flows, the data is no longer relevant in the free public markets. What the market is doing is essentially demand and supply. We understand that, but it's discounting all the future projections and all the future hype that is around this company to today's price. And everybody wants to get in on the revolutionizing electric vehicle new company that can potentially be worth trillions of dollars. But again, there is a lot of uncertainty. And that's the world we live in. Companies come out of nowhere that disrupt industries, that disrupt companies, that gain market share, they create monopolies, they create duopolies. So it's a really uncertain market environment, especially for a company like Nikola, which also has only about $86 million in cash at the end of last year. And then prior to the stock listing, it had raised more than $500 million of private capital. And again, we will go into further detail on what their pre-money and post-money valuations look like. And I will disclose some of the players or some of the investors that are already in this company with the big money, and they were able to invest privately in Nikola. So this right here is the Nikola Badger, which Trevor Melton tweeted that it's open for registrations, and they will be taking pre-orders on June 29th, as you guys can see right here. And that's essentially what acted as a positive catalyst for that stock, sending it over 100% to a market cap of now $23 billion with a stock price of $62 a share. So even after the registrations, we have to understand that they don't go into production up until 2022. But looking at it objectively, this really looks awesome in my opinion. But when we compare that to Tesla's Cybertruck, I would still pick the Cybertruck over Nikola's Badger. But that being said, it is a really, really powerful vehicle. You guys can see that it has almost over 900 horsepower, which is astonishing, with about 600-mile range and it is going to come in two models, which one of them is going to be completely battery electric with a hybrid version of fuel cells included. So I think the battery version only gives you a mile range of about 300 miles, which is what Tesla vehicles give you. But then if you upgrade it with the fuel cells, it's going to give you an additional 300-mile range, bringing your total to 600 miles that you can drive with this car. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. Again, a really, really powerful vehicle. Now, looking into the players, and this is something that I wanted to talk about. So these are the companies that have already invested in Nikola stock privately. So Bosch, which is based in Germany, and Hanwha Group, which is based in South Korea, have invested about $230 million combined. And Bosch is a top-tier global automotive company and systems developer and a longtime Nikola partner. And then Hanwha, a South Korean aerospace, chemical construction, financial services conglomerate, which will provide Nikola the materials to build a network of solar-powered hydrogen fuel and charging stations. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that this company needs a lot of infrastructure when it comes to the charging stations, because people will still need to stop and refuel their Nikola Badgers or Nikola cars. And that's something that's similar to Tesla, where they've built this entire ecosystem where if you have a Tesla, they provide you with these charging stations around the country. And I think they have over 10,000 charging stations in the United States, where you can essentially spend anywhere between 15 to 20 to 30 minutes, depending on your vehicle, depending on the supercharger that's available, and then be back on the road in a very short period of time. So Value Act Capital, again, is one of the investors with about $30 million. It's a Silicon Valley venture capital firm. With its Spring Fund, they made an investment as part of their support to the clean transportation technology. WAPCO Holdings, with about $10 million in Nikola. It's a global automotive industry supplier based in Belgium, and WAPCO will provide Nikola with a variety of safety systems, including electronic braking and stability and traction controls. NEL Hydrogen has also invested $5 million. It's a Norwegian developer of hydrogen production plants and will provide hydrogen production equipment for Nikola's fueling station network. There's two companies, Thompson's Machinery and Worthingen Industries. The amount is still unknown because they didn't disclose it, and they are major Caterpillar distributors signed on early by Nikola sales. And Worthingen Industries, again, unknown investment, but described by Milton as holding a very large stake in Nikola. Now, this right here is public information. I was able to find it on trucks.com, and apparently they had an interview with Trevor Milton where he did disclose all these different players that have invested in the company and the amounts and how they benefit or what value do they bring to the table when it comes to Nikola as a whole company. So now we're going to look into the valuation, right? How much is the company worth? Because again, it's really challenging to understand. They're not in production. They have very little cash. They have pre-orders for the Badger, but it doesn't go into production until 2022. So I want to talk a little bit about the pre-money and the post-money valuation. And the difference between pre-money valuation is that it is a valuation before any type of funding series round. And a post-money valuation comes into play when the series round is over and what is the current valuation for the company based on a private equity basis. So when we look at it from a private and public standpoint, pre-money valuation is very important. For public markets, it's important for an IPO, for the initial public offering and the initial price setting. The post-money valuation for private, it's interesting, but it's not important. For public market, it's very important because that's the market cap. So looking at valuation for Nikola, you guys can see the pre-money valuation. I was able to find that as of September of 2019, based on all the different investors that we talked about that are privately investing in the company, the valuation was $4 billion. That was the pre-money private valuation, and the public valuation at $34 IPO price with about 361 million shares outstanding gives us a $12.274 billion in market cap. This is also based on the IPO price of $34. Now, of course, when a company goes public, they're looking to raise money, and in order to do that, their stock price has to go up. Right? There needs to be more demand than there is supply, which is going to result in the price going up, which it did, and it did surge over 100%, resulting in the current market public value, post-money valuation for Nikola at around $23 billion. So this right here, I wanted to give you guys a quick overview of how their valuation has skyrocketed and what the timeline looked like. Now we're going to jump into my TradingView platform, and I will show you guys what the pattern looks like and where I personally see the stock price going in the near future. All right, guys, so here we are inside my TradingView platform. Again, this is the platform that I utilize to look at all my charts, my patterns, create different watch lists, and create alerts. So if you want to get started, it's going to be the second link down in the description below. So right now we're looking at Nikola Corporation, ticker symbol NKLA. And right now we're looking at the 4-hour chart. So you guys can see that back on June 5th or 4th, it was trading right around the $35 level, which was right around the IPO price. And as soon as it went went on the public markets, essentially jumped over 174%, going all the way as high as $97 a share. And since then, it has rolled over and it started consolidating after pulling back down to $57, $58. And right now, you guys can see that it closed at $64 right on the dot. With a market cap of just about $23 billion, with a PE ratio of 998, which we've already talked about and is incredibly high. Shares outstanding about 360 million, with an average volume of about 24.6 million shares traded. So now looking at the RSI and the MACD, it was very clear that this right here was a very overextended and overbought pattern. If a stock goes up more than 100% in a single day and the valuation doubles in a single day, that just goes to show that I would personally be staying away from it because there's a lot of volatility and a lot of hype around that stock. And based on the fundamentals and the data that we have available, it doesn't quite justify the stock price, in my opinion. So looking at it from a technical standpoint, there's a couple questions that we need to answer. Should we invest in this company or should we trade this stock? So there's two different questions that are really important. The first one is more so geared towards long-term investors, people who believe that Nikola is going to be one of the leading manufacturers for cars in the electric vehicle space. And the other question is geared more towards short-time speculative traders who want to actually take advantage of the speculation and the momentum this stock has going for it. So in my opinion, looking at the fundamentals, there's not enough data for us to actually understand whether Nikola is going to be successful or not. There's a lot of uncertainty, so I'm going to stay away from it from a long-term perspective. Now, looking at it more from a trading perspective, there's definitely a lot of volume and a lot of eyes on this stock. So now looking at the daily chart, we don't know where the 200-day moving average is going to be because the stock hasn't been around for that long to give us the 200-day moving average price. Right now, you guys can see the blue line is right around the $13.18, which doesn't make sense. But based on the 9-day EMA, that's when the stock found that support to be at around $53 right on the dot, which the EMA is trading at $55 a share. So you guys can see that it had a big run up on June 8th, going up 103%. Then following day, it gapped up even more, close to about 30%. But then this big red candle essentially means that it opened higher and closed lower. That goes to show that the price was not able to sustain those very high levels for very long. And essentially people were taking profits and selling off this stock, which is why it rolled over. And now that 9 EMA could potentially be acting as a good support. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty with this stock and the company's financials and how they're going to position themselves for the future. So now looking at the 1-hour chart for Nikola stock, just so we can understand where those key support and resistance levels are going to be, if we were to put a trend line right around this price point, which is going to be $56.54. So if you guys look back on June 9th, the stock dipped down to that level and then pushed up, going up close to about 55%. So that is a very clear recognized support. And it made its way back down to that level on June 11th, and it's still pushed up quite about 22%. So that I think is going to be a key support level for the stock because it is maintaining that price point. And it has done that a couple times right around this level. So moving forward, I'm going to keep a close eye on this stock to see if it's going to breach that level and dip even further down, or if it's going to validate that support moving forward and give us an opportunity to run up 20, 25 to 30% if the volume sticks around for that long. If the volume dies down, right now we know there's 24 million, 25 million shares being traded. And if the volume continues to die down over the course of the next few weeks, then we'll kind of know that there's less and less people interested in this stock over time. But I wanted to quickly show you guys what this company is all about, what their pattern looks like. I hope you guys enjoy. Please do your own research and your own analysis when it comes to investing in this stock. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy. And if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future content related to the stock market and investing. As always, happy investing, and I will see you guys in the next video.